Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too.
I'm not sure if telling this story will help me sleep better at night, but people on the internet keep saying, share it, get it off your chest. So here I am, trying. My name is Lyndon Ward, and when this happened, I was 11, old enough to doubt Santa, but young enough to secretly hope magic was still real. Christmas was always complicated in my family. My dad, Rick, worked night shifts at a warehouse on the edge of Cincinnati. My mom, Janelle, worked double shifts at the hospital. So December never felt like the warm Hallmark movie everyone pretends Christmas should be. It was more like everyone was exhausted, broke, and pretending we weren't. But that year, the year everything went wrong, was supposed to be different because it was our first Christmas after my older brother Grady moved away. He wasn't dead or anything, just left home at 18 and never really came back. My dad said, he's figuring life out, but my mom always whispered, he's avoiding his problems. Me, I just missed him. That night, Christmas Eve, I woke up around 2:30 a.m., not because of magic, not because of reindeer bells, not because of Christmas excitement. I woke up because I heard someone laughing downstairs. A low, muffled, almost choking laugh. And the stupid thing, I actually smiled. Because in my half-asleep brain, one thought came. Grady came home. He actually came home for Christmas. I pushed off my blanket and grabbed my hoodie. The hallway was dark except for the warm orange glow from the nightlight plugged in by the bathroom. Mom always kept it on. From downstairs, the laugh returned, quieter this time, like someone was trying not to wake the house. I whispered to myself, dude, that has to be Grady. Our living room had these wide, old wooden stairs that always creaked no matter how light you stepped. So I tried to walk on the sides, near the wall. Grady taught me that trick. But halfway down, I froze, because I heard another voice. A man's voice, but it wasn't my dad, and it damn sure wasn't Grady. The voice whispered something like, yeah, this one looks perfect. My heart dropped into my stomach. I peeked through the wooden posts of the stair rail. A huge man, easily over 6 feet, was kneeling by our Christmas tree, not in a Santa suit, not wearing red, not wearing some fun holiday costume. He wore a dirty winter coat, a torn beanie, and gloves with the fingertips missing. He had a large black duffel bag beside him, and he was talking to himself, or to something in his hands. At first I thought he was holding a flashlight, but then he lifted it toward the tree lights, and the glow hit it. It wasn't a flashlight, it was a knife, a long one. My breath caught in my throat so sharply it hurt. I stepped back one step, and the wood groaned under my heel. He froze. The man turned his head slightly, like a wolf catching a scent. "Someone awake?" he whispered, his voice strange and playful. I held my breath. He stood, slowly, deliberately, and then he looked straight up the stairs. Our eyes met. I swear I felt the temperature in the house drop. He smiled. A real smile, wide and slow. "Oh, there you are," he whispered. "Hey, kiddo." I panicked and bolted up the stairs. But he didn't chase me. I didn't hear a single footstep behind me. That somehow scared me even more. I slammed my bedroom door and locked it. My heart was hammering so hard I thought he'd hear it. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? A woman said. Hi, there's a man inside my house. He has a knife. He's downstairs. I heard something outside my bedroom door. A tap, then another. I covered the phone and whispered, "Oh God, please, no." Then, in a sweet, almost cheerful voice, the man said from the hallway, "Hey buddy, you forgot to tell me what you want for Christmas." My whole body went cold. The operator must have heard my breath hitch because she instantly said, "Lock yourself in and stay on the line. Officers are on the way." I whispered, "He's right outside my room." The man gently knocked on the door. 3 light taps. "Lyndon," he whispered softly. I never told him my name. Not once. How do you know my name?" I whispered. He chuckled. "I've been watching your house all week. Your mom screams your name when you don't come down for dinner." I felt tears streaming down my face. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. The operator said, "Police are 3 minutes out. Stay quiet. Do not engage." But the man tried the doorknob. It rattled violently. "Open up," he whispered, not so cheerful now. "Come on, kid. Don't make me do something messy." Then, silence. I didn't hear him walk away. Didn't hear any footsteps. Nothing. I didn't even realize I'd stopped breathing until the operator said, "Lyndon, stay with me." Then suddenly a bang shook the whole door. He kicked it. I screamed. He kicked again, harder. The wood cracked. "Let me in," he snarled. Another kick, and then, from downstairs, sirens, flashing red and blue lights. The man stopped. Then he whispered through the cracked door, "This isn't over." And with terrifying calmness, he walked away. I heard the sound of the sliding window in the living room being shoved open, then the thud of boots in the snow. Officers came pounding up the stairs, shouting, "Police! Call out if you're okay." When Mom and Dad rushed home, the cops were still searching the backyard. The entire sliding window frame was smashed. Snow was tracked across the living room carpet. But what haunts me most was what they found stuffed behind our Christmas tree. A second duffel bag. Not ours. His. Inside were rope, duct tape, several knives, Polaroid photos of other houses, a list, names of kids, and at the bottom of the list, written in shaky handwriting, police said he'd been breaking into houses all week, testing windows, studying routines, and waiting for the night when families were distracted. They never caught him. Not once. Some people online call him the Christmas Ripper. Others call him the man at the window. I call him the reason I don't sleep on Christmas Eve anymore. Even now, years later, I swear sometimes I hear that same soft knock in the middle of the night. 3 taps, always 3, and a voice whispering, "Hey kiddo, I didn't forget you." I never thought the quietest Christmas of my life would become the night I stopped sleeping properly for years. Before that winter, I was just another guy trying to stitch my life back together. My name is Kellen Rourke, 29 at the time, newly moved out of Milwaukee after my dad passed from a sudden stroke. I'd spent 9 years working warehouse jobs, bouncing between night shifts, living mostly paycheck to paycheck. When my dad died, it shook me out of that routine. He was the kind of person who'd say things like, "Son, you're living life in sleep mode." And he wasn't wrong. After the funeral, I needed a change, something quiet, repetitive, something that kept me distracted without dragging me into heavy responsibilities. That's how I ended up at North Willow Commons, a large shopping mall on the outskirts of Lakefield, Illinois. The kind of town you pass on the highway without realizing it. They needed a night security guard, and I needed something that didn't require emotional energy. The mall was peaceful, predictable, and completely dead at night. Perfect for someone who didn't want to think too much. Everyone warned me that working nights, especially holiday nights, gets weird, but I always thought that was just night shift folklore. Turns out, every story had some piece of truth in it. Christmas Eve night, the weirdest shift of the year. Outside, a slow snowfall covered the empty parking lots. Most stores had closed early, leaving the mall dimly lit, except for the huge Christmas decorations, wreaths on the pillars, a giant sleigh suspended above the center atrium, and an enormous 10-foot tree wrapped in gold lights. I clocked in, scanned my badge, and walked into the silent main hall. The only sounds were the heating vents and the buzzing of old fluorescent panels. My supervisor earlier that week, Mr. Lennox, a chubby, red-cheeked guy who always smelled like peppermint gum, said, "Kellen, Christmas Eve is easy. Just stay awake. That's half the job." I remember joking back, "You ever see anything weird here?" He had laughed, but it wasn't a full laugh, more like one he pushed out. "Malls get weird at night. People sneak in sometimes, kids, druggies, folks looking for a warm place, but nothing dangerous, usually. I didn't think much of it at the time. By 12:40 a.m., I'd already done 2 laps of the mall. I walked with my flashlight, tapping the metal railing every time I passed the upper balcony, just a habit to keep myself from drifting off. I bought a coffee from our security lounge, more like a glorified broom closet with a microwave and a dented mini fridge. The coffee was terrible, but at night everything tastes like survival. On my radio, static popped occasionally, but there was no one else working that night. Just me. 1 guard, 1 giant mall, Christmas lights humming overhead. Around 1:17 a.m., I was walking near the North Wing, the part of the mall where stores like the Anchor Bookshop, a high-end clothing boutique, and an old-school jewelry store sat side by side. I swear to God, everything was dark when I'd passed earlier. But as I turned the corner, one store stood out. The jewelry store, Dawson and Caro, had its lights on. Dim, but definitely on. I muttered under my breath, "No way." That was off earlier. I stood there staring at it. The mall was silent, cold, dead. That warm glow in the store looked completely out of place. I walked toward it slowly, the sound of my boots echoing way too loudly in the empty hall. When I reached the store, I pressed my hand on the door. Locked. Everything was dark inside except that one faint light over the register area. I leaned toward the glass to get a better look, and that's when the hair on my arms went up. Something moved behind the counter. Just a shape, a head, pale face, just the top half. Watching. But the moment I blinked, the light flickered, and the head was gone. Darkness, an empty store, empty counter, empty everything. I stepped back immediately. Nope. I cannot be seeing shit already. My brain tried to rationalize it. Reflection, shadow, sleep deprivation, whatever. But it didn't feel like a reflection. It felt like a person ducking, a person hiding. I exhaled slowly through my nose, trying to steady myself. I turned away from the jewelry store and started heading back toward the center atrium, gripping my coffee with both hands. But halfway down the hall, I heard it. A click, then a sharp bang, like someone had slammed something metal. Then, footsteps, fast, running, from one side of the mall to the other. I stopped dead in my tracks. My heartbeat hammered in my ears. "Hello," I yelled. "Security, who's there?" No answer, just my voice echoing down the hall. The footsteps had run toward the east exit hallway, which led to the restrooms and some kiddie rides. I swallowed hard. Everything in me said go call the cops, but I forced myself forward because if I didn't even try, I'd get fired for negligence. And honestly, back then I needed that job like oxygen. The hallway was darker than the rest. Most of the lights there were motion activated, but for some reason they didn't turn on. That was already wrong. Those damn lights turned on when a moth flew across them. I whispered, "Okay, no big deal. Maybe they're broken." But my voice cracked. The hallway smelled like old popcorn and cleaning chemicals. I checked the massage chairs, the kiddie rides, the soda machines. Empty. The exit doors at the end were dead-bolted with heavy chains from the inside. No one could get through them, which meant whoever ran down here was still inside. My throat tightened. I turned toward the men's restroom and paused outside the door. It was slightly open, barely, like someone didn't want to close it fully. A cold draft pushed out from the darkness behind it. I eased the door open another inch. "This is security," I said loud enough to not sound scared. "If someone's inside, you need to come out." Silence. Then, a sound. Soft. Wet. A muffled cry. Not loud, not desperate. More like someone trying to stop themselves from crying. My stomach tightened into a knot. I stepped inside, letting the door swing open. Inside the bathroom. The bathroom lights flickered dimly. A few tiles were cracked. The smell of chlorine and cheap air freshener hit me. The crying was coming from the last stall. I moved forward slowly. "Hey man, you okay?" No response. Just quiet, shaky breathing. I crouched down to look under the stall. 2 shoes, black shoes, facing toward the door, facing me, motionless. I leaned a bit closer. "Sir, you can't be in here this late. The mall's closed. I need you to come out." The crying stopped instantly, like someone hit mute. Then, the shoes moved. Fast. The person inside dropped to their knees and pressed their head to the floor, and stared under the stall door directly at me. I jerked back so hard I hit the wall. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, unmoving, like he wasn't even blinking. He whispered something I couldn't understand. My hands trembled. I stood up immediately and backed out of the bathroom. Calling for help, I fumbled with my radio. "Dispatch, I need police at North Willow Commons ASAP. Possible trespasser. Unknown behavior. Possibly unstable." Dispatch responded instantly. "Copy that. Officers en route. ETA 12 minutes. Those 12 minutes felt like 12 years. I paced near the hallway, never taking my eyes off the bathroom door. At one point, I swear I heard the stall door inside slam open, but no footsteps followed. The police arrived. 2 Lakefield PD officers arrived. A tall woman with a buzz cut and a short, stocky male officer with a clipped tone. The male officer, Officer Duran, asked, "Where's he at?" "Men's room. Last stall," I said. He was just staring under the door, not talking. They exchanged looks. Not surprised, just annoyed, like they'd seen this type before. We went in together. The bathroom was dead silent. Stall door still closed. Officer Duran banged his fist against it. "Sir, step out of the stall with your hands visible." Nothing. He knocked again. "Sir, this is the police. Open the door." Still nothing. After a few moments, he exhaled sharply. "All right, back up." He kicked the stall door near the hinge. Once, twice, crack, boom! The door swung open violently. And inside, the man sat on the toilet, hands on his knees, staring straight ahead with this hollow, dead expression. Like he'd been waiting. They cuffed him without resistance. As they pulled him from the stall and walked him past me, he turned his head, not his body, just his head, and locked eyes with me. His voice was soft, hoarse. "Kellen," my entire body froze. Officer Bell, the female officer, looked at me. "You know this guy?" No, I've never seen him." The man smiled faintly, not a happy smile, a knowing smile. I stepped back instinctively. They took him out through the service exit toward their cruiser. Before they put him inside, he looked at me from over his shoulder, still smiling, still staring, like he knew something, like he had been there for me. Aftermath. My shift didn't end until 5 a.m., and for the rest of those hours, I kept imagining him popping around every corner. The mall didn't feel empty anymore. It felt watched. For weeks after, I kept asking Lakefield PD if they found out who he was. They always gave the same answer. Ongoing investigation. I eventually quit North Willow Commons, moved out, tried to convince myself it was just a creepy trespasser. But sometimes, especially around Christmas, I still dream of those pale eyes staring at me from under the stall door. And in those dreams, he whispers my name, like he never left, like he's still inside that mall, waiting, watching, remembering. I never expected that Christmas would be the year everything in my life shifted. quietly, violently, and in ways that still make my chest tighten when December rolls around. Christmas horror story. Full, original, ultra-realistic. I grew up in a weird kind of family dynamic. My parents had my little sister nearly 2 decades after my older brother and me. I'm 19 now. My brother Calder is 25, and our baby sister, little Juniper, or June, just turned 3. My parents always joked that June was their bonus round, but truthfully, she changed everything. Not in a bad way, just in a way that made our house feel younger again. More toys, more nightlights, more routines built around naps and bedtime stories. Last Christmas, though, man, it still feels like a bruise. My dad had surprised my mom with a last-minute couples getaway in Vermont the week before Christmas. They hadn't taken a vacation alone in years, so they begged me to watch June for 3 nights until Dad's friend could drive them back. Calder wasn't flying home until December 21st, so for that window, it was just me, the little one, and a house full of old Christmas decorations. Honestly, I didn't mind. Finals were over. I was exhausted from dorm life, and being home with just the glow of the decorated living room sounded peaceful. Plus, June loved me, like genuinely believed I hung the moon. Anytime I walked into a room, she'd reach out her arms and yell, "Nico, pick me up." So yeah, babysitting her felt more like hanging out with a tiny best friend. But there were things I didn't realize then. Things like how weird the house sounds when no one else is in it. How every creak and sigh in the walls gets louder. How winter nights feel like they close in around you. And how sometimes those sounds aren't the house. It was snowing hard the first night, flakes slanting sideways, tapping at the windows like they wanted in. The whole neighborhood looked swallowed by white. I put June down around 8:30, tucked into her little crib, her stuffed bunny squeezed under her arm. I turned on the baby monitor my parents always used. It had audio and one of those crappy night vision cameras that made everything look grainy. After she settled, I went downstairs, turned off the lamps, and kept only the Christmas tree lit. I swear the glow of a tree at night is its own kind of cozy therapy. I microwaved leftover pizza, threw on Home Alone, and sank into the couch. Everything was normal for about 30 minutes. Then the baby monitor crackled. At first I thought it was interference. Our old house always had weird electronic glitches in winter. But then I heard it again. Not crying, not movement, just breathing. Slow, muffled, not coming from a toddler. I sat up straight. "June," I whispered toward the monitor, even though she couldn't hear me. The breathing didn't stop. Then there was a sound, too soft to be a voice, but too shaped to be nothing. A whisper, a male whisper. And I froze so hard it felt like my bones locked. I ran upstairs 2 steps at a time and burst into June's room so fast I startled her awake. She shot upright, her little hands gripping the bars of the crib. "Nico? Hey, it's okay." I scooped her up, pressing a hand to her back. She wasn't crying, but her breathing was fast. Nothing felt wrong in the room. No windows open, no cold drafts, no movement. That bathroom door, though. June's room connects to my parents' room via a Jack and Jill bathroom. I grew up with it. It was just normal architecture to me. But now, in that dim night vision green glow from the monitor, it was cracked open, just a few inches, like someone had slid through and didn't want me to know. I walked over, pushed the door fully open with my foot. It was empty. Of course it was empty, but something felt disturbed, like someone had been there only moments earlier. "Nope," I muttered under my breath, grabbing June again. "We're both sleeping downstairs tonight. Forget this." I set her on the couch with blankets and turned on the TV until she got drowsy again. I told myself it was the monitor picking up interference. I told myself it was the house. I told myself a lot of things I didn't really believe. The next night, the storm grew worse, wind howling, tree branches scraping like fingernails along the siding. I made mac and cheese for June, we watched cartoons, and for a little while everything felt perfectly normal. I put her down around 9 o'clock this time. She clung to my shirt a little longer than usual. "Don't turn the lights off," she whispered. I blinked. "Why not, Bug?" She looked toward the bathroom door. "That man don't like lights." My stomach dropped. "June, what man?" She shook her head and buried it in my shoulder. "Toddlers say stuff. Weird stuff." I tried telling myself that. I tucked her in, left her nightlight on, and went downstairs. I didn't even try to watch a movie, just scrolled my phone mindlessly. 20 minutes later, the monitor made a soft clicking noise, then static. Then, a low voice whispering something too faint to understand, but unmistakably male. My chest tightened. I bolted upstairs. June was on her feet in her crib, crying hard now, red-faced, panicked. "He's in there," she sobbed, pointing at the bathroom. "Nico, he's in there." The bathroom door, wide open. I grabbed her, heart pounding so hard it hurt. I reached to flip on the bathroom light, but before my finger touched the switch, something inside shifted, not loudly, just enough. A footstep, soft, measured, human. Holy, nope, nope, nope. I didn't even finish. I ran out of that room so fast I almost slipped on the hardwood. I carried June down the stairs, grabbed my coat, my keys, and sprinted barefoot through the snow to our neighbor's house. Our neighbor, Mrs. Darla Brooks, opened her door in a robe and slippers, eyes wide. "Jesus, Nico, what happened?" "There's someone in our house," I panted. "I heard, look, I know how it sounds, but I'm not imagining it." She pulled us inside immediately, called 911 before I even asked. While we waited, June clung to her stuffed bunny and kept repeating, "He was in the bathroom. He was whispering." Police searched the entire house, every room, every closet, every possible entry point. They found nothing. Didn't believe me. Of course they didn't. But Darla insisted we stay the night with her anyway. June wouldn't sleep unless she was in my arms. Neither would I. The next morning, the snow had stopped. Everything looked calm, peaceful, normal, like the night before had been some fever dream. Darla walked back with me to check the house. It looked untouched. We went room to room. Nothing. Eventually we reached the hallway leading to the attic door. It was open, just slightly, like someone had pulled it closed, but not all the way. I felt a cold rush up my spine. "Stay here," I told Darla quietly. She grabbed my arm. "Nico, don't be stupid." But I was already climbing the ladder. The attic smelled musty, old wood and insulation. I clicked on the pull chain light. At first I didn't notice anything, then my eyes adjusted. In the far back corner, behind a cluster of half-collapsed cardboard boxes, was a nest. Blankets, a filthy pillow, metal food cans, water bottles, a lighter, scraps of clothing. Someone had been living in our attic. Not for a night, not for a week, for a long time, maybe months, maybe since summer. My throat tightened. I stumbled back, dizziness washing over me. That moment, when I realized a stranger had been living above our family's heads, has never left me. The thought that he could have watched us, listened to us, walked the halls while we slept. He had a perfect view of the bathroom connecting to June's room and her crib. The police came again. This time, they took it seriously. Fingerprints on the attic door, food receipts from 3 towns over, footprints in the insulation. But the man, gone, never caught. They told us he probably left the night we ran to Darla's, that he realized he'd been discovered. But to this day, sometimes, late at night when the wind hits the house just right, I swear I hear that same faint whisper I heard through the monitor. Sometimes June wakes up crying, saying, "That man's back." And even though we moved the crib, locked the attic, changed the doors, I still don't sleep well during December. Christmas lights don't feel cozy anymore, not after knowing someone else was watching them too. I've lived alone before, but never like this. I grew up in a crowded household. 3 sisters, a loud dad who loved football way too much, and a mom who never sat down unless everyone was fed. So when I finally got my own place, a 2-story duplex on Willowbank Street in Crown Hill, Minnesota, peace and quiet felt like freedom. But that changed last year, last December, the first Christmas after my breakup with Leora. People always say you don't realize how much a routine holds your life together until it's gone. They're right. Leora and I were together for almost 3 years. We shared groceries, Netflix passwords, even laundry days. When she left, the silence in the house felt like the kind that rings in your ears. I tried getting back out there, tried talking to people, tried pretending I was fine. That's how I ended up swiping on dating apps again. And that's how I met Hallie Rivers, or whoever she actually was. We didn't talk much at first. She added me on Snapchat, watched my stories, reacted to some memes, and vanished for days at a time. I chalked it up to typical modern dating: flaky, inconsistent, low effort. I didn't think much of her. But on December 21st, I posted a picture of the snow piling up outside my window with a caption, "Christmas is hitting hard this year." A couple minutes later, Hallie replied, "Hallie, I love that vibe. You doing anything festive?" Me, trying not to drown in boredom, I guess, lol. "Hallie, we should decorate a tree together." I stared at the message longer than I should have. I hadn't decorated anything, not even the porch lights. My fake tree was still boxed up in the attic. Me, tree's still up there. It's kinda a 2-person job. Hallie, perfect, I'll help. She said it like it was already decided. That should have been my first red flag. We planned for 9 p.m. At 8 p.m., I rushed to the liquor store, bought 2 bottles of Cabernet, and came home to clean what I could. I vacuumed, wiped counters, lit a candle, even put on some low jazz playlists so it didn't seem like I tried too hard. By 9 p.m., no message. 9:10 p.m., nothing. 9:20 p.m., still nothing. I typed a follow-up. Just LMK when you're on your way. At 9:32 p.m. finally, "Hallie, I'm outside." I opened the door expecting the girl from her photos. Petite, soft-spoken, warm smile. What stepped inside wasn't that. She was tall, nearly 6 feet 2 inches by my guess. Taller than me, which caught me off guard immediately, and she smelled like she had marinated in perfume. Cheap, floral, suffocating. Underneath that was something else, something sour, something human. Her face looked older than her pictures, harder around the eyes, a little weathered in a way that didn't match her online vibe, but she smiled at me like we already knew each other. "You must be Cade," she said, brushing snow from her jacket. Her voice was deeper than I expected, almost hoarse. "Yep, come on in. Want some wine? Please." She followed me into the living room, sitting way too close on the couch. Our legs touched, my whole body stiffened. When I handed her the wine, she clinked her glass against mine. "Cheers to Christmas vibes," she said. She took a sip. I took a sip. And then, before she even set her glass down, she spilled a fat drop of red wine onto my light gray couch. Oh my God, I am so sorry," she blurted. "It's fine," I lied through clenched teeth as I shot up to grab paper towels. She kept apologizing, but didn't really move to help. She just watched, wide-eyed, like she was studying me more than the mess. To break the tension, I said, "All right, tree time." We went up to the attic. The space was cramped and dusty, but everything was neatly packed. I slid the big box toward the ladder. "Careful," I warned, as I passed down the tree pieces. She grabbed the last giant section, one even I struggled with, and lifted it like it weighed nothing. Her strength made me freeze for a second. She laughed. "I lift, sometimes." But it didn't sound like a joke. Once the tree was assembled, I told her I needed to get ornaments from the crawl space under the stairs. She nodded. "I'll be right here." That was the last moment she acted normal. In the crawl space, I suddenly felt dizzy, way too fast. I hadn't had enough wine for that. My vision blurred at the edges. My head felt light, floaty. I pushed out a groan without meaning to. Damn. What the hell? I grabbed the first bin of ornaments and dragged it toward the stairs. When I reached the top, she was gone. The couch was empty. The hallway dark. Bathroom door open. Empty. I called out, "Hallie?" No answer. I checked my phone. She hadn't opened any of my snaps. I stood there confused, frustrated, a little embarrassed. Maybe she thought I was boring. Maybe she thought my place was lame. Maybe she suddenly changed her mind and bailed. But then, the dizziness got worse. My legs buckled. I collapsed onto the couch. Everything went heavy, dark, strange. My last memory was staring at the TV, desperately trying to keep my eyes open. Then, black, complete. I woke up to darkness. No TV, no lamp, no sound. My body felt like I'd been asleep for a century. My limbs were stiff and weak. My head pounded. When I lifted my arm, it felt like someone had strapped weights to it. I reached under me and found my phone. The moment the screen lit up, a silhouette appeared, tall, motionless, standing right in front of me. I froze. The outline looked exactly like her, but wrong. Her shoulders were slumped forward, her head tilted slightly to the side. I whispered, "Hallie?" But my voice barely made it out. No response. I lowered my phone slowly, letting darkness swallow us both, because somehow, seeing her was worse than not seeing her. After a few seconds, I forced the words out again. "Hallie, what are you doing?" Still nothing. So I raised the phone once more, turning on the flashlight. She was right there, her eyes blown wide, her pupils huge and glossy, her lips parted like she was breathing through her mouth. She wasn't blinking, just staring down at me. My heart slammed against my ribs. My throat closed up. My hands shook violently. I croaked out, What do you want?" She didn't answer. Instead, she spun around and bolted toward the stairs, faster than I thought a human could move. Her footsteps pounded the wood so violently I felt them through the floor. Then, slam, front door, silence. It took me another 10 minutes to stand. My body was still sluggish, like whatever she gave me was still burning off. When I checked Snapchat, her account was gone, blocked. I checked outside. There was no car, no footprints except her long, heavy steps leading away from my porch. Nothing to indicate she ever arrived in a vehicle. Inside the house, nothing seemed disturbed, until I checked my bedroom. My pill bottles were gone, all of them, even the ones buried in drawers. My vitamins, my prescribed meds from an older dental surgery, even ibuprofen bottles. The small bottle of vodka from my mini fridge was gone too. Everything else was untouched. It clicked immediately. This wasn't a date. It wasn't a lonely girl. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She targeted me. She planned this. She drugged me. She took exactly what she needed and nothing more. She wasn't Hallie. She wasn't the girl in the pictures. Hell, I'm not even sure she was homeless. Some addicts function with alarming precision. She just needed a story, a house, someone alone for the holidays, someone like me. I reported everything to the police. They couldn't find her, couldn't trace her username, nothing. Sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep, I replay the moment I woke up and saw her standing over me. The way she didn't move, didn't blink, didn't speak. Like she was waiting to see if I was still alive. Like she was debating something. And I can't help but think, if I hadn't woken up when I did, what else would she have taken? I was 9 years old the Christmas everything changed. But to explain how the night unfolded, you need to know what life looked like for me back then. because the horror of that night only makes sense when you understand what normal used to be for us. My name is Jonah Rivlin, and in 1998, my family lived in a small rented house at the edge of Hawthorne Creek, Illinois, a middle-class suburb where everybody decorated for Christmas like their entire identity depended on it. Every street glowed with inflatable Santa Clauses, blinking reindeers, and houses wrapped in lights like they were trying to attract airplanes. Except ours. Being a Jewish family in a heavily Christian neighborhood wasn't a big deal to us. We celebrated Hanukkah, not Christmas. But to the neighbors, we were always a little different. Mom used to joke that she could feel the entire block's HOA spiritually clutching their pearls when we didn't put lights up. I didn't totally get it then, but I laughed anyway. But the real truth was this. We didn't put up lights because my mom wasn't capable of doing much by December every year. Backstory, the things kids aren't supposed to notice my mom, Rena, had developed a drinking problem the year after my parents divorced. To Dad's credit, he tried. He begged her to get help. He tried calling family. He even slept on our couch for almost 4 months, hoping his presence would steady the ship, as he called it. But nothing worked. And by the time I was 9, Mom didn't mean what it meant for most kids. My sister Tally was 7 and used to draw smiley faces on sticky notes and put them on Mom's nightstand with little messages like, "Wake up soon, Mommy Hearts." Most nights, the sticky notes stayed exactly where she left them. Dad worked nights almost every holiday season because, as he always reminded us, Christmas Eve is when the hospital needs Jewish doctors the most. We didn't mind him working. What we did mind was being left alone with a mom who passed out by 6 p.m. every night. We didn't use the word alcoholic. We didn't know that word. We just called it Mom fell asleep early again. And that's where the horror begins. 2 kids alone in a quiet house on Christmas Eve, while the entire world outside is celebrating something we don't even observe. But the story isn't sad. It's terrifying. The night it happened, Christmas Eve, 1998. It was freezing outside, the kind of cold that stings your eyes. A snowstorm warning was on the news all day, but by evening, it looked calm, just gently falling flakes glowing under the streetlights. Dad had left for the hospital around 4 p.m. Before leaving, he gave us his usual speech. "You two stay inside, don't open the door for anybody. If you need me, call the hospital and ask for Dr. Rivlin. Got it?" I nodded. Tally saluted for some reason. Dad smiled, kissed Mom's forehead, she was already half asleep, and left. By 7 p.m., she was fully gone, lying on the couch, wine bottle rolled to the carpet, snoring softly. Tally and I sat up in the living room with blankets, cereal bowls, and Nickelodeon on low volume. That's when the first knock came. Not a normal knock, not the casual tap, hey neighbor kind. It was deliberate, slow, heavy. I remember the way the sound vibrated in my chest. Tally looked at me. "Jonah, who's that?" "I don't know. Don't move." Our front door had a tall, narrow window panel beside it, frosted glass, but not frosted enough. If someone stood close, you'd see their outline. So I crept toward it, step by step, and when I finally got close enough, I saw the silhouette of a man, tall, broad shoulders, wearing what looked like a Santa hat. My stomach dropped. He leaned slightly, as if trying to peek in. Then he said, in a cheerful, rehearsed voice, "Ho, ho, ho. Hey there, kiddos." My breath froze. He shouldn't know we were kids. He couldn't see us. The curtains were closed. The TV was quiet. The lights were dim. Unless he'd been watching us. I didn't answer. Then he continued, voice louder. "My sleigh got a little turned around tonight. Can you open the door for Santa? I've got something for you." I whispered, throat tight. "We don't celebrate Christmas." He paused. I could see his shadow tilt its head. Then, "Oh, I know. That's why I'm here. I didn't want you two to feel left out." Let me in, and I'll give you your gifts." My mouth dried instantly. Not many people knew we were Jewish. No one knew Dad wasn't home. No one knew Mom was unconscious every night, unless they'd been watching our house, unless they knew our routine, unless they planned this. Dialogue that still haunts me. I swallowed hard and replied through the door. "We're not allowed to open the door." A long silence. Then his tone changed, dropping from cheerful to irritated, like a mask sliding off. "Jonah, open the door." My entire body froze. He spoke my name. He knew my name. Tally gasped. I covered her mouth with my hand. "How do you know my name?" "Buddy, I know everything. Santa always knows." That wasn't a joke. He didn't say it playfully. He said it like a threat. Tally whispered into my hand, "Jonah, call Daddy." But I didn't know the hospital's number. Dad repeated it 1,000 times, but I always forgot it by bedtime. And Mom's landline speed dial wasn't something we understood. We only knew 2 numbers, 911 and our own house number. And calling ourselves wouldn't help. So I reached for the phone and dialed 911. The operator picked up. 911, what's your emergency?" "There's a man. He's trying to get in our house." "Sweetie, slow down. What's happening?" "He knows our names. He's dressed like Santa. But we didn't open the door. He keeps knocking. Please send someone." The operator sighed like she thought it was a prank. "Sweetheart, is someone playing Santa outside? It's Christmas Eve. Kids get excited." "No, he's not our friend. We don't even celebrate Christmas." Okay. Honey, listen. Is your mom or dad home?" "My mom's asleep. My dad's at the hospital. Please send someone." Footsteps on the porch. Heavy. Getting closer. The man pressed his face against the frosted glass, trying to see inside. The operator said, "Unless someone is trying to break into your home or hurt you, this line." The man banged on the door so hard the glass rattled. Tally screamed. I yelled into the phone, "He's trying to break in." Finally, the operator's tone shifted. "All right, stay calm. I'm dispatching officers now." But the damage was done. He heard everything, and he knew the cops were on the way. He stopped pretending. The cheerful voice was gone. He snarled, low, "You really shouldn't have done that." Then I heard, not footsteps leaving, but footsteps circling the house. He was checking windows, testing them, trying them, one by one. Tally grabbed my shirt. "Jonah, what's he doing?" "He's trying to get in." Then he called out, muffled through a window, "Kids, the cops won't help you. They never do. They don't listen to little voices." My heart slammed against my ribs. Every window latch, every creak, every shadow. He was checking all of it. Mom didn't stir, not even when he hit a window frame so hard it cracked. That's when I realized we were truly alone. The smoke detector plan. Back then, our neighborhood had a system. If your smoke alarm connected to the fire department's auto alert box went off, firefighters were dispatched instantly. Dad had explained it to me months earlier, complaining about how sensitive the sensors were. So my 9-year-old brain made the only plan it could. Set off the smoke detector on purpose. Force the fire department to show up. I grabbed all the leftover Hanukkah candles from a drawer, flicked a lighter, lit 5 at once, and held them under the smoke alarm like an idiot. Tally shouted, "Jonah, what are you doing?" Trust me. It took only seconds before beep, 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 the loudest sound I'd ever heard. The man outside reacted instantly. I heard him sprint back to the porch. He started pounding on the door like he was desperate or furious. "Hey, let me in right now. Open the door." But I didn't move. 5 minutes later, which felt like an hour, a fire truck screeched to a halt outside. I saw flashing red lights through the curtains. 3 firefighters ran up the steps, and the man, the stranger, jumped toward them, waving his arms. I heard him say, Thank God you're here. I'm their dad. I dressed as Santa for them, but I got locked out. They're trapped inside. I froze. He was trying to get them to break the door down. One firefighter reached for his Halligan bar. Tally sobbed, Jonah, he's gonna make them open it. Jonah, please do something. I ran to the window and screamed, he's not our dad. We don't know him. We're Jewish. We don't celebrate Christmas. The firefighters froze. One looked at the menorah on the table. Another looked at my kippah on my head, and everything clicked for them. Sir, one firefighter said, why would you be dressed as Santa delivering presents to a Jewish family? The man froze. Then he ran, full sprint down the sidewalk. 2 firefighters tackled him before he made it past our mailbox. Police arrived seconds later. They cuffed him, dragged him to a squad car, and asked us dozens of questions. Mom didn't wake up until officers were literally talking above her head. When she realized what happened, she burst into tears. I didn't know if it was guilt or fear or both. Dad rushed home from the hospital, still in his scrubs, shaking with rage. At Mom, at the man, at the world. I don't know, but he hugged us so tight it hurt. The police never told us much, just that the man had been watching houses, learning routines, waiting for a moment when kids were left alone, and we were the unlucky ones that fit the opportunity. Years later, I'm 35 now. I live states away. I have kids of my own. And every Christmas Eve, when I hear even the softest knock at the door, my chest tightens the same way it did in 1998. And I always check the window before I answer. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't a ghost. It's a real person wearing a friendly costume who thinks you're an easy target. I always thought Christmas was supposed to feel warm, even when the air outside could freeze your breath solid. Growing up, Christmas wasn't just a holiday for me. It was the one week of the year where my parents actually slowed down, acted like they liked each other, and gave my sister and me a break from the constant arguing. My dad would burn pine-scented candles because we can't afford a real tree, and my mom would force us to watch all the cheesy holiday movies she loved. It was dysfunctional, but it was ours. Now that I'm an adult, Christmas feels different, more nostalgic, more bittersweet, and that was exactly why my girlfriend Lana and I planned a quiet, romantic getaway for Christmas 2022. Something cozy, something peaceful, something that felt like a reset button on life. We'd been together just under a year, enough time to fall in love, not enough time to know all of each other's ghosts. And I didn't know then that this trip would reveal more than I ever wanted to know. It all started on the night we left for Everpine Ridge, a small mountain town most people in America never heard of. Snow was already dusting the sides of the highway as we drove. Soft Christmas music played low on the radio, and the glow from passing cars reflected off the windshield like drifting stars. Lana sat curled up in the passenger seat, her red beanie pulled low over her ears, her hand gently resting on my arm as I drove. "You excited?" I asked, glancing at her with a smile. She nodded, looking out into the falling snow. "Yeah, I've never had a Christmas like this. It feels kind of magical." I squeezed her hand. "That's the whole point. Just us, snow, a fireplace. Zero real-world crap." Lana laughed softly. "You're corny as hell. You know that?" "Absolutely." Her smile faded a little, not sadness, just something thoughtful, distant. "You okay?" I asked. She hesitated. "Yeah, just holidays always make me think too much." We let the hum of the engine fill the silence. She wasn't the type to spill her heart unless she really needed to, and I didn't push. After another hour, we stopped at a small roadside market to grab groceries, the kind of place with one flickering fluorescent light and a cashier who looks like he hasn't moved from his stool in 10 years. We grabbed snacks, breakfast stuff, ingredients for a simple Christmas dinner. When we walked back outside, snow was falling heavier. Lana zipped her coat up tight. Damn, it's really coming down. Good thing the Airbnb's only 20 minutes away, I said, brushing snow off the roof of the Jeep. We got back on the road, a narrow winding path through tall pine trees. The snowfall thickened, turning the world into a silent white maze. The GPS finally said, "Arriving at destination." And there it was, a beautiful 2-story cabin with a wraparound porch, glowing Christmas lights, and a huge pine tree decorated out front. It looked like it came straight from a Hallmark movie. Lana clapped her hands. "Oh my God, it's adorable." We carried in our bags, groceries, and tossed our jackets over the couch. A warm wave of pine wood and cinnamon hit us immediately. "Okay, this place is legit," I said. "Legit cozy," Lana added, already exploring. "Look, they even put stockings above the fireplace." The place felt peaceful, safe, homey, but that feeling wouldn't last. We unpacked, started dinner, turned on the Christmas lights, and let the soft glow fill the space. Snow kept falling outside in thick sheets. Lana was cutting vegetables when she suddenly said, "Do you hear that?" I paused. Someone was knocking on the front door. "At this hour?" I muttered. It was nearly 9 p.m. Lana whispered, "Maybe it's the Airbnb host?" I walked to the door and cracked it open. A man stood outside, mid-50s, rough beard, oversized coat, and old snow boots. He gave me a polite, tired smile. "Evening, folks," he said. "Name's Reed. I live just down the road. Wanted to make sure y'all got in okay. Storm's getting bad out here." I forced a friendly smile. "Yeah, we're good. Thanks for checking." He nodded slowly, eyes drifting past me like he was trying to see inside the house. "You folks the couple staying here for Christmas?" "Yes, sir," I replied. "Just the two of us." He grinned, too wide. Nice. Real nice." Lana appeared behind me, and Reed immediately lifted his hand to her. "Merry Christmas, miss." She gave a stiff smile. "Merry Christmas." Something about this man felt off. Not dangerous, just intrusive. Like he was too curious, too comfortable. He finally tipped his head. "Well, don't mean to bother you. Storm's supposed to dump another 6 inches tonight. If anything weird happens, power goes out, pipes freeze, just holler. I'm always around." "Thank you," I said, hoping he'd leave now. He did, but not before staring at us both for a second too long. When I shut the door, Lana exhaled sharply. I didn't like him. Me neither, I admitted. But we pushed it aside, made dinner, watched a Christmas movie, and tried to relax. Later that night, we decided to try the hot tub on the back deck. Steam rose into the cold air. Snowflakes melted as they touched our skin. It was quiet, peaceful, perfect, until it wasn't. Because while we were sitting there, laughing, holding each other in the warm water, the hot tub suddenly stopped. The jets cut, the hum vanished, and in the silence that followed, we heard footsteps, slow, heavy, crunching through the snow somewhere behind the tree line. Lana grabbed my arm. "That's not an animal." I sat frozen, listening. The footsteps moved closer, then paused, then slowly drifted away into the dark woods. Lana whispered, "Can we go inside? Please." "Yeah, let's go." We hurried inside, locked the doors, closed the curtains. We tried sleeping, but at 2:47 a.m., we woke to something far worse. Bang, bang, bang. Someone was pounding on the front door. Lana sat straight up, shaking. "What do we do?" I whispered. "We stay quiet. Don't move." The pounding came again, louder this time. Bang, bang, bang. Then it stopped. Silence stretched on for what felt like hours. I locked the bedroom door, and we stayed awake until the sun finally rose. Fresh footprints the next morning. Snow covered everything, except for one thing. Fresh footprints leading around the cabin. I walked outside to inspect them. Lana stayed inside, peeking through the window. The footprints went from the road, around the entire cabin, to the back deck, and then into the woods. Those weren't from yesterday, Lana said, stepping outside. It snowed all night. We heard crunching in the snow again. I turned. It was Reed, emerging from behind a cluster of pines. "Morning," he said casually. I exhaled, heart racing. "Did you knock on our door last night?" Reed blinked. "No, why would I do that?" I pointed to the footprints. "Someone was here." He inspected them, scratching his beard. "Yeah, someone was here, all right." Then, "There's folks in these mountains who don't like strangers. They wander sometimes, check properties. They ain't dangerous, just strange," Lana whispered to me. "He's lying." I messaged the host about the noises and the footprints. He responded, "There is no neighbor named Reed." My blood ran cold. I replied, "A man named Reed came last night, said he lived nearby." The host responded almost instantly, "No one lives within 2 miles of that cabin." I turned to Lana, voice low. "Pack your stuff." "What? Why?" "We're leaving, now." The escape. We grabbed everything. Didn't check drawers, didn't double check the bathroom. Just stuffed whatever we could into our bags. When we stepped outside, the morning air was sharp and cold. I loaded everything into the Jeep quickly, but before I could get in, Lana whispered, "Babe, look." I turned. Reed was standing at the tree line, watching us, expression blank, hands at his sides. Then he began walking toward us, fast. "Get in the car," I shouted. Lana jumped in. I slammed my door shut, started the engine, threw it into drive. Reed broke into a run. "Go!" Lana screamed. I pressed the gas, tires spinning in the snow before gripping. The Jeep lurched forward. In the rearview mirror, Reed slipped in the snow, got back up, and kept coming. He chased us down the driveway until the trees swallowed him. We didn't stop driving until we hit the main road. My phone buzzed. It was the host again. "Police are at the cabin. They found the basement door open. Whoever you saw is gone." Lana covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. "He was inside last night," she whispered. "He was already inside." We didn't talk for the next hour, didn't play music, didn't look back. When we finally got cell service again, I called my sister just to hear another human voice. But even after we got home, even now, a year later, we both still remember his eyes, empty, cold, like someone who wasn't looking at us, but through us. And sometimes, when snow is falling, Lana swears she hears footsteps outside our apartment door, heavy, slow, familiar. But whenever I check the peephole, there's nothing there, nothing but quiet, nothing but winter, nothing but the echo of memories we wish we never made.